Sorry everyone, that game backlog you were hoping to work through during the Christmas holidays? Yeah, I'm afraid that's staying right where it is, because Baldur's Gate 3 just got an absolutely incredible new update, and it's time to play it again, right now. Let's get into it. Look, full disclosure, Baldur's Gate 3 was already my game of the year, but patch 5 is absolutely stuffed to the brim with brand new stuff for players to get their teeth into, and it's not even December 25th. Larian brought the gifts early this year. Like all of Baldur's Gate 3's patches, there's an absolute shed-load of fixes and tweaks that Larian have made to make the game a more stable experience for all, but there's one new feature in particular that should have you booting up another adventure, and that's the Epilog. Probably one of the only criticisms I've been able to give Baldur's Gate 3 over my far too many hours of play was that Act 3, and especially the endings for your merry band of waifs and strays, left a little bit to be desired. Everything just sort of stopped, admittedly for some characters more than others, and it felt like Larian had left a bit of story stuff accidentally on the cutting room floor. Thankfully, they've heard our cries for a more fulfilling ending, and they've duly provided it. Playable epilogues are finally here, and my god, it is good to see the gang back together again. Set at camp in High Hall with a view overlooking the city, just like your final sleep before you arrived into Baldur's Gate in-game. This new and last playable chapter takes place 6 months after the event of Baldur's Gate 3's story, and finally wraps up all the loose ends you could hope for as you say goodbye to your companions properly. And in typical BG3 style, not many of our epilogues are going to play out the same. Everything that happens in this final chapter is defined by your playthrough. Every decision you make, every battle you fight or manage to avoid, every consequence leads you to this point. All the companions have slightly different stories to tell depending on how you played, which obviously took some pretty complex writing on Larian's part, but it was absolutely worth it. Alongside new cinematics and conversations that react to your story arc, you get some insight into how Baldur's Gate has changed since you left it 6 months ago, how your decisions in the city and who you saved along the way have gone on to shape what you left behind. There's also new faces, old friends, and Easter eggs galore to discover at your camp, but we're not going to spoil too much here. Thankfully, you don't even really have to restart a new adventure to get this ending if you don't want to. As long as you have a save file primed before the final fight of the game, which, let's face it, only a true masochist would fail to have, you can kickstart everything from there and watch how all your decisions play out in the endgame. It's got big tiefling party energy, and we absolutely love it. But just in case a whole extra epilogue chapter wasn't quite enough to entice you back in, there are a few other massive highlights that might just tempt you to revisit that character creation screen. Honor mode has been added to the game's difficulty settings, and it's not for the faint-hearted, upping the ante on tactician and then some, making combat and social encounters more difficult, and making the extra ridiculous decision to add legendary actions to the game's boss fights. If you've never played actual Dungeons & Dragons before, they're essentially actions that big bosses can take when it's not actually their turn, so if you take a dive into this difficulty, be warned, there's no honor here, and there's no shame in cheesing it. And clearly, Larian knew this isn't going to be a walk in the park, because if you manage to complete Honor mode, you'll get a shiny golden D20 for all your future playthroughs. But if you're looking for a more bespoke experience, Custom mode has been added too. It lets players really tweak the gameplay exactly to their liking, making it more or less like a true tabletop RPG depending on your tastes. If you don't want to know the DC of skill checks, you can turn that off. Would you prefer to not know how much HP an enemy has? Well, we can do that too. Disabling death saves, making short rests into long rests. The possibilities are plentiful and well worth taking a look at before you dive into Faerun once again. Obviously, as with every patch comes a ton of fixes hilariously laid out by Larian. A few personal favourites being Boo won't take damage when you throw him anymore, Withers will resurrect all your companions in the endgame so they can be in the final cutscene, and Orin's outfit is now officially equipable to tabs and companions alike, for the truly sadistic and stylish among you. All in all, it's an absolute beast of a patch, so if you thought you were done with Baldur's Gate 3, make a wisdom save. Ah, no, you failed. Time to roll up a new character and dive right back in. Cheers for watching, give this vid a like if you're rolling up a new tab as we speak, and if you want more Baldur's Gate 3 stuff like this, check out these videos here.